Welcome, everyone, to the September 2025 edition of our Houston EVA Club. And I was just talking with someone who's come here from New Jersey about the New Jersey clubs and everything. So welcome, glad to see you here. Good to see both new faces and returning faces. So yeah, we've got a couple of exciting things to talk about. So EV mobility with Peter Tesarek, and then also another favorite kind of electric vehicles, airplanes, from Kevin. And so we'll do that. But first, I'll go through a few things on the PowerPoints. So tonight, we're here, whether it be in person or virtual. Tomorrow, anyone who would like to travel down to the south side of Houston in League City, there is a lunch. And we'll be starting at around 11:30, right, Emma? Something like that. But we go a pretty long time, so whenever you can make it is good. And we just informally talk about all things EV and sometimes PV and things like that. In my case, about 20% of my electrons are coming from the sun hitting our garage roof. And so that's always fun to talk about too. And Wednesdays, every Wednesday, so even more often than these once-a-month meetings, everyone is encouraged to take part in our Vice President David Lowy's edition of Radio EV Hub. And the EV Hub has a number of different things that David Lowy plans, but he loves to have people calling in as well. And that information is readily available. You can look up kpft.org. So I encourage everyone who is interested to get on the radio. And we have Drive Electric Month coming up here, the end of September, beginning of October. So we've got a couple of fun events. So the 1940 Air Terminal Museum is on the west side of Hobby Airport. And this year it's Saturday, September 20th. I've arranged with George, the executive director down there. And it's very informal. We park our EVs out front. You can drive people around. You can keep it locked. You can do whatever you want. Come on in. And it's a lot of fun to be out there. From the photo, you can see we've got a sign up, yeah, with a QR code. And from the photo, you can see we've got some old vehicles and some new vehicles out there. There's one gentleman who brings his Tiger airplane. That's really cute. So besides the plane being painted like a tiger, orange with black stripes, he parks the big stuffed tiger under the wing in the shade. You know, tigers always like to sit in the shade in their environment. So it's a fun environment. And so old fuel vehicle and a new Cybertruck in that photo too. And then, so we'll start that at 10 and people can leave whenever they want. Theoretically, we go till 3. The museum there on the wing side is open till about 5. And you can either register online or you can just show up if you want to. And then the next day, we have Sunday, which is taking place at a church in Houston. It is the Christ the King Lutheran Church on Rice Boulevard. And there'll be lots of other types of things going on there. So it's not nearly as much EV only oriented like the Wings and Wheels were out in the front parking lot. This will be people talking about solar, and we'll just have a table there. So again, encouraging people to drive out there, talk about their EV. Yeah, bring your EV and show it, as Colin says. And then the Electrify Expo, this year it's going to be up in Dallas. It's been in Austin the last couple times for the Texas edition. They have them in other places in the country. And as you can see, there's lots of different things, 2-wheel EVs and all kinds of fun stuff. Some of us have made trips together out there. So that's something we can do too, is coordinate for driving the distance. And of course, we encourage everybody to join the club. As I mentioned, there's clubs in New Jersey and all over the place. And sometimes we talk with presidents and members of other clubs. We were recently talking with Jeremiah, the president of the Wisconsin Club, about things unique to Wisconsin. And so those are fun things. By being a member, we don't require it, but just anybody who is so inclined can join the national organization. You can see some of the things there. And there's an emphasis now on 10,000 electric vehicle rides. So you can read there about how that's encouraged. It's something that's being done on a national scale. And the EV1 sheet, so we have sheets here that we get from National. They get out of date very quickly, so we encourage folks to take them home, give them to neighbors and friends and everybody. And so that's a good thing. There's also the supercharged comic book, and we have business cards for folks that want to give out a little card to folks. I see Colin's already ready with his 1450. Okay, first opportunities, of course. If anyone would like to help with social media and some other things, you can send us an email. But this is a 1450 with a little green EV on it. So what people have found is that pulling 32 amps or more from one of the old standard 240 volt 14-50 outlets, 50 being for 50 amps, don't really cut it. And so getting one of these new heavier duty ones is highly recommended.
The one that I'm showing passing around here was installed by an electrician about a year ago at my daughter's house, and they've been using it for about a year. So if you've got a 1450 outlet, it's probably a good idea to check it out. No. Now, the issue is the ordinary 1450 outlets are not designed for EVU. So you're designed to run your dryer for an hour. They're not designed to operate for 6 hours or 8 hours. So I've heard about this in the news and just happened to check that outlet, and it's definitely damaged.
And besides the equipment, the hardware being beefier, one of the main things is the torquing down of the connections, because those connections on the backside are what tend to heat up, and that's where the danger lies. So that's why now
the connections are better also. They're designed not to just be a screw down, but to grab the wire all the way around. There goes the end of that. So and you could tell it's a heavier device can withstand the heat.
Online.
This is Leviton. Yeah, I got it online. It's about $70, something like that.
They're more expensive than what you find at Home Depot, but they're better than what you find at Home Depot, and that's why buying them online is the place to go. Not to a local store, Amazon, for example. Yeah. So that's a good safety tip for everybody. Yeah, for folks with the chargers in the garage. TXRX opportunities here. You can always get a tour, which is really nice. Understand what's going on here in the building. We appreciate them letting us have free use of this space once a month. And I'll already give you a heads up that in October and November, we'll be meeting here in the building, but in December, we'll have a social. And we'll do that in a restaurant, so that will not be here at this location. So December is the only month of the year that we don't get together here. So, oops, I went too far, but yeah, go ahead, Emma. The batteries and brews. Oh, yeah.
I think you skipped that.
Did I go too fast? I might have gone too fast. Can I play again here? Play. Let's see if I can find that one. I went past, there it is. Yep, you're right. I skipped. Thank you. So on Sunday, so we got busy times here, Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday. From 1 to 3, we'd like to see everybody who's interested, whether they care to have a brew or not have a brew. They have food and other things there. Brewery changed names, but we've been before at this building. It's now called the Tejas Brewery on Summer Street. And they have real nice view off of their top deck of the building. And so it's a real good time to go on out there. So just another opportunity. Happens to be kind of close, but that's just due to timing. In general, we'll probably do these a bit later every month, so it's not so close to our second Thursday, but this month it's pretty close. So yes, we want to do that. And so we're getting different people signing on, but I wanted to get back to the really nice, big solar charger that someone we know is, there it is, and I just went past it again. There we go. It's a Beam Arc Level 2 charger and requires no construction. It just sits there. It's heavy, so it's not going to blow over. And it's industrial. But if someone thinks that they know of a place that that would come into use where there would be no need for doing trenching or things like that, it, I don't know the price, but it is not consumer grade. It's more industrial grade. There you go, 20 to 40K. Okay, thank you. This one is for that price. The company, I believe, is still selling them. And then they're a brand new price, which would be much higher than that, closer to 100K for a brand new one. So if you've got a use for one, it's a really good deal. Yeah. And as I said, no trenching or other kinds of construction work is the real advantage of this. So it can be put in places where other things are not practical or would just take way too long to get installed. Okay. So, and you can see an email down there, or you can just connect through any of the officers here. So that does complete what we have going on here. And Peter Tesarek, you, having graduated from both Columbia and Rice, have a good background, and then you've had a whole career, and now you're doing a second career as an entrepreneur. So I'd like to invite you on up here to tell us what you're doing.
Ted, I appreciate the cat is in here. I appreciate inviting the cat in here too, because she was feeling a little left out before. I am happy to report, thank you, that I bought my first EV today. It was a scooter for my daughter, who's a sophomore up at Texas A&M. So I'm a proud dad, a proud Aggie dad, plus a proud now owner of an EV. So, but I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for inviting me to talk. I put these slides together. I talked in the last radio program, maybe 2 programs ago, and I put the slides together, and then like the day before, I'm like, this is radio. I'm not going to need slides for the radio. So it's like I'm ready for the discussion with the full group. So thanks again for inviting me. Do I have the clicker? Let's see. There we go. So I've got some topics that I want to talk about, or I can talk about. If they're not interesting to you and there's some questions that you'd like to talk to me about, feel free either interrupt in the middle or wait till the end and ask me questions. I wanted to talk about some EV connectors. I've got some show and tell aspects up here. I want to talk about the issues that EV owners have with 12-volt batteries as well. That's a big issue. And then some considerations that you should have as either if you're renting one or if you buy a used one to think about that I'm seeing in the market right now. And then some tips and tricks that I've got on charging. So just as an introduction, I have a business. It's called Mobile EV Fast Charge in Houston. Our mission is to serve stranded EV motorists. We have degreed engineers, and we use mobile EV charging stations with the technology leader in public EV charging stations that we use their chargers. Our current service territory is the Metro Houston area and all of the surrounding counties, plus College Station. So if I go and charge, I can see my daughter for dinner or lunch. And I started the company really as an alternative to EV owners being stuck by the side of the road and having to tow their EV. Because when I first heard about this opportunity, a friend of mine told me that if you run out and you're by the side of the road, your only alternative was to get towed. And I'm like, that's a terrible design. That can't be right. There's got to be some other alternative. But no, there wasn't. So I started the business, and it's really, it's really a service to the community. And if you think about it, that people are worried about the range of their EVs and the infrastructure, I've got a solution to help them put those together. So, and you can find the business if you just Google EV roadside assistance or mobile EV charging in Houston. So onto the onto the discussion of connectors. So some of this will be very familiar to a lot of you. And I'm going to go through level 1, 2, and 3 chargers. Level 1 chargers are home chargers, and those are generally provided by the manufacturers when you buy your car. It's a 110 15 amp plug into your wall. It charges at about 2 miles per hour. The objective is to get some charge overnight. It takes literally four days to charge your vehicle. It's very slow, but it's available. You can charge anywhere on it as long as you've got a plug. What I am finding, and I'll talk about it a little later, is people are renting EVs from the rental companies, and they're not providing this level 1 charging. And so people have, they're like, they don't know what to do, which provides business for the company. But it's unfortunate that rental companies aren't including this in their equipment, because it at least could get you enough charge to get you to a fixed charger. So the level 2 charger is generally it's a J1772 connection, and it looks like that. It looks like it's got 5 little dots in it. It's about 8 kilowatts, 240 volts, 30 amps, charges at about 24 to 30 miles per hour. You hear companies like Blink, ChargePoint, that provide these on a commercial basis. And then you've got, if you had an electrician install a 240 volt breaker, you can put a level 2 charger in your home. And you could, but it does cost you, in order to do that, it costs you obviously getting an electrician to come in and hook them up. But you can get level 2, and that will definitely charge your vehicle overnight if you had that capability. Then the most interesting one for everybody is the level 3 chargers, and there's a couple of them. There's actually 3. There's the CCS1 combo that it refuels at 350 kilowatts, which is about 900 miles per hour, and it's about the Tesla superchargers are about 250 kilowatts and about 700 miles per hour. But all of those statistics vary by the facility that you're at. I mean, you can go to an EVgo station or a Shell recharge, and it's only charging at 80 kilowatts. So, but it looks kind of like that. That's the other side of it, where it's got the J1772 at the top, and then it's got the 2 ports at the bottom, and it's a DC charge. The CCS is a DC charge. That's what makes it so fast. And then, oops, wrong button. Must be the wrong button. Oh. Okay, all of those clicks just went there. Let's see if I can go backwards now. Can we go back? Can you help me on that one? They're up there at the end. Right there, go down 1. Just 1. Okay, it's not just me. Just 1 more below that one. Keep going. You're at the end. No, that's the end. That's like the second to last page. That's the last page. Yeah. Keep going. Up. Yeah, up towards the beginning. I think you're going the wrong way. You're going towards the end. Let's go back towards the beginning. Page up. Oh. That's the page up. Wait, stop. Okay, let me take it. Let me see if I can take it from there. I got it. Okay, thank you. So the next one, the level 3, that's, everybody hears about is the Tesla superchargers. As I said, it's 250 kilowatts, 750 miles per hour. And until recently, Tesla only was able to use the NACS, or the North American Charging Standard plug, which is this one right here, to plug into a Tesla. And if a Tesla could use a J1772, they would need an adapter, and those come with the Teslas, and they plug in, and they can plug in a 1772. But they just so two things: Teslas allowed other makes of EVs to be able to use their Tesla network. That's a relatively recent something that just happened. And the other is that Teslas now can use a CCS connection, and this is actually the adapter they have to use, and it plugs into their car, and then they plug in the CCS connection into this side. So there's now both sides of this connection for a Tesla. It really, as they're developing the commercial arrangements and the adapters, it's really making the charging more seamless for everybody. It should be making it more seamless for everybody. So which is good. So you see all the adapters, and as I said, so that the non-Teslas have access to the supercharger network. And I actually saw for the first time last week, I saw a non-Tesla with a NACS port in the car. That was the only port it had in the car, was a Tesla NACS, and it was a 2025 Hyundai Ioniq 5. So I mean, that's exciting. Of course, the lady that had the car, who only had the Tesla adapter, she was sitting in a CCS charging station, and she didn't know what to do because it didn't fit into her NACS thing. So I had the opportunity to charge her, and then I of course brought out the adapter, and I said, "This is what you need," and I drove her to where the CCS connection was, and I plugged it in, and we charged her the rest of the way with this. So everybody's got there's a lot of learning, there's a lot of change and a lot of learning that's happening in the market. Those are the connections. We can talk about that. If you have questions at the end, we can talk about the connections of how they charge. The other issue of that, did I do that? So this will be better for all of you. You can't see me. You can just look at the slides. So the other issue with electric vehicles, and most people with electric vehicles don't understand there's actually two batteries in the car. There's the high voltage battery, and there's a 12-volt battery. Every car has a 12-volt battery, just like in your internal combustion engine, your ICE engine, they've got a 12-volt battery, and it runs the onboard computer. So it needed to open the doors and the front and to charge the vehicle. If the 12-volt battery isn't working, guess what? You're dead, because you can't charge the high voltage battery without the low voltage battery. So, and that if you run, what I found is people that get to the end and they're in 0 miles and they keep driving, the car actually runs on the 12-volt battery. It runs out the entire electrical system to dead. And what happens then is, guess what? The car's dead. You have to jump start the 12-volt battery in order to do the charging of the system. So right, it's part we do this a lot. Well, and if you're what's happening in the heat of the summer and when it's cold too, you're just like any ICE engine, industrial, it's a normal 12-volt battery. If it dies, guess what? You can have all the miles you want in your high voltage, and you're not going anywhere because your 12 volts died. A lady called me today with a 2018 Chevy Volt, a hybrid, and it was dead battery. So the interesting thing about this that I find is, so if the 12-volt battery is dead, you can't get in the car, you can't open the trunk, and so if you can't open the trunk, you can't get to the 12-volt battery to charge it, right? So people are stuck, right? But Actually, it was funny because I had a lady, I was charging her, and she was sitting there waiting for me, and had the air conditioner on, and the 12-volt battery ran out before I got there, and she was stuck in the car. She couldn't open the door from inside because the battery was dead, and she couldn't open the door because she couldn't undo the locks. So I had to jump the car to get her out of the car, and then jump the car. But there's all sorts of little tricks, and this is if you own an EV, you should know what these tricks are. Like in Tesla, they call it a little tow eye, and it's in the nose cone of the front, right at the front. There's a little circle, and if you pull it out, there's two wires there. And the hack for a Tesla is you put a jumper cables on it, and it pops the trunk, it pops the frunk open. So then you can get to the battery leads and jump the 12-volt battery. So other cars have different little things. BMW i3, you have to like crawl through the car to open up the front box, and the Porsche Taycan, there's a fuse box at the feet where you can open the frunk. But there's all sorts of all the cars perform the same way, but you have to understand what you have to think about that possibility of if your 12-volt battery is dead. And actually the Amazon trucks, the Rivians that they're driving around in, you jump start the Rivian from underneath the driver's seat. While he's sitting there, you're jump starting the 12-volt battery on the car. I thought that's the funniest of all of them. The only one I've seen that in is a Porsche. The Porsche will tell you that you've got a low battery.
It varies with Teslas, with Teslas, in answer to your question, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So theoretically, it should give you like about a 2-week warning that the 12-volt battery is getting old and having problems. But there have been stories of people with no warning, their 12-volt just goes flat.
Well, and my experience with it is not that it goes bad. I've had it a couple of times in the Chevy Volt, but it's just that people drive the car past zero, trying to make it, and they don't make it, and they run the 12-volt battery out as well. So, and in that case, they don't get a warning at all. It's just dead, and you got to jump start it and recharge it. So it's kind of, I think that when this part of my business is the most interesting, because you're like, you're trying to find what the hack is. Otherwise it's like, you're plugging in and you just charge the car. This is like, oh, how am I going to get the car open? And oh, there's a lady locked in the car, so how am I going to get her out? So kind of funny. Okay. My next topic is considerations when buying a used EV or renting one. So I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, that things are changing in the market. I mean, when we first started doing EVs, it was the technology, early adopters were buying EVs. People like us in the room, right? Who smart, like new things, can read the owner's manual, so on and so forth. So guess what? We're 7, 8, 9, 10 years into the cycle. Your new technology isn't such new anymore. Trade it in, right? Now, I don't know if you're probably aware that the EV market, the price of EVs has plummeted over the last couple of months. And so guess what? The least expensive used cars are EVs. And who buys the least expensive cars? The poorest people with the least knowledge. And exactly. And they're coming off of lots. They're coming off of used car lots, not out of the Tesla factory or the Chevy dealership. They're coming off of Mo's used car lot, and Mo isn't going to tell anybody, but they're just going to try to sell you the car and goodbye. They're not going to tell you how to use the car. They're not going to provide the level 1 charger. They're not going to. A lot of times they don't charge it all the way up when they leave. I've had people that drove it off the lot and they ran out of charge on their first trip out of the lot. So that's actually one of the considerations I have is make sure that you've got, that when you leave the lot, it's charged. So that's absolutely something. So, you know, EVs have gone from this kind of bougie purchase of a, you know, cool technology to now it's the cheapest thing that's on the market, and it's changing. And oh, the other thing, guess what? If you're the poor guy who doesn't understand technology, are you going to be able to afford a, you know, an electrician to come in and put a 240-volt breaker on your breaker box? No, because oftentimes you're living in an apartment. The apartment's not going to let you put a 240-volt connection on the box. You can't do that. So they're forced to use the public network. That's why the public chargers are much more occupied now, because you got more people who don't have one at home to be able to charge. So, see, so as I said, some of the things, if rental cars are just as bad as a used car lot, they're terrible. Make sure that they charge the car. That's another one. I've seen people that rented the car at the airport and they're on the Beltway and they barely make it off the Beltway because they didn't get charged. Don't assume that it's going to be charged when you leave. So I mean, it's terrible. It's abusive. It's an abusive practice, in my opinion. Exactly. Third bullet point. You know when you pick it up where you're going to charge it. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, these are. Mhm. And I don't serve Milwaukee, so you would have been out of luck. Let's see. So how much time?
Chat question from Chris. How do you measure the high voltage battery state of health?
The high voltage battery state of health. Good question. So yeah, the third bullet from the bottom is, I really haven't seen. I was expecting that high voltage battery degradation of capacity was a big issue, and I really haven't seen that. That there've only been a few, like the Chevy Volt and the Chevy Bolt. Both of those are you know problems. There's a couple of models that have those issues, but I really haven't seen that older vehicles. Okay. Yeah, so I had a lady with a don't get one of those. But a Nissan Leaf, I had a customer who bought it off at a used car lot, and it only had like 48 miles of range on the entire thing. What's that? Fully, right, exactly. So there's certain models, but I haven't seen it. But I don't know how you measure that. But I see if I can charge it quickly, I think the battery's in good shape.
You mentioned Leaf. Leaf has a little set of bars, and you can see how many bars down from. Yeah, so that
Okay.
will help up there.
Okay, great. There it goes again.
Time goes by.
Okay, one other trend I wanted to tell you guys, and I think I mentioned that last time. With our cheap EVs, the low price of used EVs, they're cheaper here than they are elsewhere. And guess what's happening? People are buying them here, they're putting them on transports, and they're shipping them off to New York and California. So I've seen a lot of that. More demand, higher prices. I'm not sure what the trend on is that. Oh, except that they run out of battery while they're waiting to get put on the transport, and then they need somebody to charge them so they can get up on the transport. So, okay, let's see the last set of tips and tricks. You guys all may know this, but you can go and find the charging stations in your Apple Maps, and you just type in EV charging stations nearby, and it'll show it. And generally, you can click on it, and like this one, well, you can click on it, and it'll tell you how many chargers are on it. And if you go into detail, it can tell you what type of chargers are on that. What I have have seen is that what you need to do is go into the actual app of the operator to get the health, if you will, of those public charging stations. Just this morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, guy calls me. He's got a brand new Dodge Daytona, awesome car, and 2025, and he's at an EVgo station. He said he found it on the map. He got there and it was out of business. It wasn't working. If he had had the app and he had looked on the app, it wasn't even on the app. It wasn't on the EVgo app, but on the maps, it had shown that it was there. So look on your app and it'll show you how long it was since the last person used the station. So if it was in the last hour or so, you know it's working. That's it. That's a big one. I got to charge him and we
Went out
I went it. It's been a long day so far. Let's see. Oh, hotel chargers are there, and a lot of times you'll drive up and it won't work. And what you have to do is you go into the hotel and you ask them to turn it on, because they have a switch in the hotel to turn on their charging stations, and it's generally free, because they can't charge, they're free. But if you need to go in and ask them. I've charged people sitting in the hotel and all they needed to do was go in and ask, but it's not my job to fix that. I wasn't going to say that, but you said it. So the other one I was going to say, there's other free chargings around, like school districts. I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was like a bus terminal there, and they had 20 chargers there, high-speed chargers, and the gate was open. You could just drive in, plug in it. It was free. It's part of your taxes you pay, I guess, to be able to use those. But yeah, before you go somewhere, research where you're going. If it's longer than, if you need to charge, make sure you research that. And the final one, actually, I want one after this, but if there's a hurricane coming, it doesn't look like we're going to get a hurricane. I mean, knock on wood on that one. But keep your EV charged up, because guess what? If your power goes out, you'll be calling me. One thing I will mention, in addition to these bullet points, Waymo is in Houston now, and they're autonomous taxis, right? Robo taxis, and they're driving around. Did you find him? David went out there and he was like spying on him. Yeah, they're cool. Zeekers, they're using these things that look like something out of Disney World, and they're made by in a Chinese company called Zeekr, Zeekr, because they didn't know how to put the E before the R, or they'd used all their E's. But you walk in, it's like Disney World. You walk in, and there's nobody there, and I guess there's an app, and they take you there. And they also have a Jaguar version. I'd rather be in the Jaguar version than the Zeekr version. So, but they're out there. If you see these vehicles that are like have all these things on them, look and see if there's a driver in them, because they're training them in Houston, and soon we'll have robo taxis in Houston. But yep, they've got them in Austin. The people they're rolling them out here are coming from San Francisco and Austin to roll. They're learning the streets. They know the streets. They're learning how Houston drivers drive. And they say that currently these autonomous vehicles drive like a teenage boy, is what they said. So be careful. That doesn't sound very good, but yeah, be careful if you see one. And they say Waymo on the side, so they're like blue and you can see them. It's pretty cool. That's all I have. So questions.
So touching upon those 2 points about the hotel charger and the rate structure, I have been to a hotel in Toronto, and the first 2 hours were free, but then after that it was like some ridiculous rate, like $20 an hour. It was So definitely pay attention. Definitely recommend paying attention to how they charge. Yeah, so I was sure to pull my plug out before that 2 hour mark.
Yeah, the other thing about using the app on like Shell Recharge or EVgo, I think you get a discount by using the app as opposed to just swiping your credit card. So I think you get a discount on that. So and it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah, it's watching how much it costs to charge. Yeah. That trip I was telling you about, how I drove a car EV from Houston to New Jersey, where you're from, in Tennessee. It wasn't shown on the map, but the charger was behind the fence of the airport parking lot, which costs money to park at. But the sign on the fence said, first 15 minutes, there's no charge, because sometimes people go in by mistake and they have to leave or whatever. So they make that easy. So at 14 minutes, I stopped charging and got out the gate. So I got on the road and got to the next charger on down. So again, like you say, you got to watch what the cost conditions are for charging. Yeah. So yeah, that's the 1450.
Are we ready for Kevin? I've got a couple of things more, or if Kevin's ready.
Go ahead, a couple more
Okay,
things and then we'll
so
switch over.
I had two things. One is so mobile charging, and there's some innovative services out there now, and I've seen them that there's people who will, and I think it's mostly inside the loop. It's got to be mostly inside the loop, but they have supposedly level 3 charging from a battery. I mean, I use a generator, gasoline generator, and generate the 7.5 kilowatts of power. But there's some batteries. This is a spark charge roadie, and you can, it's quiet. And the only problem with it is it's only, you can only get like 10 miles. If you only had one, they're stackable. If you only had the charger and one battery, you can only get like 10 miles. So, and then they have to go recharge the battery, and it takes 2 hours to recharge the battery. So I don't really understand. I'm not sure that the economics are going to work for us to use it, but I mean, I'm evaluating this roadie thing here. It's on the right there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting, but it's not using a gasoline generator. So we're looking at that, but there's people I think that are using those. They're expensive now, and I don't understand how they would make money doing this. So that's why we haven't put that in the fleet yet. And then you talk about the ask. We were talking about how long using a level 2 generator and a level 3 generator, a true level 3 generator where you got like lots of power and lots of time. I mean, you're talking about a trailer pulling that behind, and that trailer is probably 5,000 pounds, and it probably costs $100,000 to do that. So you're probably not going to see a lot of mobile level 3 chargers that can do like a Tesla supercharger and fully charge they have those for fleets. So if you had your own fleet, you could buy one of those and keep your fleet charged. So questions? Anybody have any questions for me? 12-volt battery. Have you ever replaced a lead acid battery with a lithium battery, solid battery? I think most of the time they're using lithium batteries now. I think the Tesla one's a lithium battery.
It's a form of lead acid.
Yep.
It's not lithium.
And I saw, was it a Bolt? I've seen lead batteries in there for them, but I don't know if you can replace a lithium battery with a lead acid.
So the data that I heard from the new League City Tesla location, yes, the newer vehicles are using lithium and they last a lot longer than the lead acid. But due to the electronics of the car having been built for the lead acid, you cannot change a car that was built for lead acid and put in the lithium. And they're actually calling the lithium 17-volt batteries now.
Okay, yes, I think I'd heard that too.
Yeah, so. Okay. The thing I have heard is folks with golf carts, they love putting lithium batteries in under the seat where the batteries sit in place of the original lead acids. And because you're not generally dealing with electronics, most golf carts are just kind of on and off, for the most part. They zoom because you've reduced the weight of the vehicle substantially, and they go when you hit the accelerator in a golf cart with lithium. So, okay, good. And yeah,
So most of the record drivers for AAA are not not employees of AAA, they're contract. Why couldn't you make an arrangement like that so they call on you when necessary?
So yeah, good question. So AAA is not providing the service currently. They have made an announcement that I think they wanted 1 million or 1 million EVs on the road in Texas, because it's AAA of Texas, right? And they want 1 million EVs on the road. And I did the math, and it's going to be 3 or 4 years until we get that number of EVs on the road. But I've tried to contact them. I think you gave me some information about a AAA person, but you know, they're providing mobile EV charging in I think 22 markets right now, but nothing in Texas.
You're here.
Yeah, who needs AAA?
Well, yeah, but it would be another source for, refer them to you.
Right, it could be, but the record drivers are, they don't know how to deal with 12-volt batteries. They don't know how to deal with a lot of issues like if your car's dead. I mean, they need the car to go in neutral to get it onto the car, basically onto the flatbed, and they can't do it. So that they just can't. Well, I did 3 yesterday. I don't know if that answers your question, but right. Well, they're not going anywhere.
They can call the tow truck.
They could, yeah, that's right, but 2 right now.
so you're already capable of going different sides of Houston, because Houston's really spread out. And that's what I'm worried about, is that you'd be
Yes.
on one side and then you get a call on the other side of Houston.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So you have a question over here? Did I see a
Yes.
Robin?
The Cybertruck has the 240 volt out.
I'm sorry, ask again.
The Cybertruck, if you have a Cybertruck, you could use the 240 volt out to actually charge vehicles.
So yeah, if you drove to a site with the Cybertruck, they have the outlet in the back of the bed.
You
Did charge from there?
you can do that also with a Ford F-150
Ford
Lightning.
F-150.
Lightning pickup, and I'm looking at that as an alternative too
Good, good.
right now. And I think there's another one that one of the Chevy
Silverado
Silverado
has
has
40.
that as well. So right.
Yeah, I think
but-
the Silverados have way bigger than the Lightnings.
Right. Yeah, you have to have certain packages in order to do that.
Ah,
Right.
okay. Yeah, the expensive packages.
Right.
to
Yeah, I
get
looked
it
at a
out.
2022 the other day, and there wasn't even a 240-volt outlet in the Lightning pickup. So
Ah,
you gotta-
okay.
so
Because there's
you
different
gotta find the right
outfittings.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Well, I just had a little point. I have a Prius. I was at the gas pump. I was at the big gas pump in my Prius, and the 12-volt battery just went boop, went out just like that. And I just driven from the house to the gas station, and I went to start it, and there was nothing on the screen. And a friend of mine who also has a Prius warned me. He said, "When your 12-volt battery goes out, it's gonna be gone." So I was stuck at the pump, and I told the gas station attendant, I said, "My car is stuck here until the tow truck comes." When the tow truck came, he opened this little thing next to the shifter knob and pushed a little button and was able to shift it into neutral.
Okay.
That's all.
Know your car.
New
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the car makers really, generally, the automotive engineers have kind of thought of everything. You just need to know the hack, right? There's a hack on all this. One thing I was going to mention on hybrids, and especially on the Volt, is that you have to drive it on electric mode because I think you can drive the Volt on just gasoline mode. If you never drive it on the volt on the EV side, it does bad things. There's something bad that happens and the battery dies and then everything else falls apart. So you have to make sure you're using the EV side of your hybrid.
Good to know. Yeah. Yeah. Emma.
Yeah, I was going to say an answer to Chris's question about state of charge.
Mhm.
You can get a OBD2
Ah, yes,
reader
right. Yeah.
and use an app like Car Scanner
Okay.
to
To get some data on the
get
battery.
data on
Good, good.
on your battery. So
long does that
that's an
take?
option.
How long does that take to get that reading?
Well, it's instantaneous
Instantaneous?
at the state of charge. I mean, it tells you what it is at that time, but what you can do is charge it 100% and see what that kilowatt hour
Okay,
it says the kilowatt hours are and compare it to.
compared to what the nameplate was, right?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, and I believe we even had it on the PowerPoint at the beginning. Recurrent is a company that somehow collects data and tells you the status of your battery in your car. And that there's a combination between that company and the national, so that somebody.
EVA is advertising them, and they get some portion of they get some kind of support from them. But basically, you give up your login information for your vehicle, and then it keeps track of your battery. It'll show you how often you hit between 20 and 80%, and you know, how you compare to other batteries, the health of your battery. I think it's worthwhile. I've had it on 2 cars. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I've never researched exactly what they can do, but I knew that they were out there.
They're aiming at a used car market.
Right, because people are nervous. Right, right, yeah. Yeah, just like for a house, you want to show somebody when the roof got replaced and such. For a car, you want to show how you took care of the battery because that makes a difference in resale value. Yeah, because as you said, there are so many of these Moe's used car lots that really aren't telling you anything. And then it's the people that don't know what questions to ask that get a poor performing used EV.
Well, and there's savvy people out there that are taking totaled or damaged Teslas, especially fixing them up and selling them off. So that's another thing to be careful of is if there's a salvage title on a Tesla, for sure Tesla won't take care of it at all. They won't do any upgrades on the software or anything on it. So gotta be careful. But I know there are people are doing that because I've charged these wrecks and they're like, oh, yeah, we're gonna fix this up. I'm like, great.
Oh, so you've seen some really sad stories of what somebody's bought, huh?
Well, I've seen where people are gonna fix them, and I'm like, buyer beware of what
Okay.
you buy used.
Yeah. Well, and I know of other people, they've gotten one and they've taken the battery out and they've taken the parts of the battery and they've built their own EV and they've just used the equipment out of a wrecked EV. Yeah. And that really makes sense. But yeah, if you try to fix it up and then you can't download new software, then you're not in good shape.
Right.
Yeah. So other questions from folks before we switch over to Kevin and fly away. All right. Well, thanks so
Okay.
much, Peter.
Well, thank you. God bless you all. Thank you for having me here. And I could yak all day. So, Kevin will be more interested.
And thanks for showing everybody the different hardware because yeah, these types of adapters are what people are needing nowadays. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna have an adventure in the air. So as I mentioned before, 2-wheel EVs are popular. You can see those at the expo, like the one coming up in Dallas. And lots of different companies are taking to the air. So are you gonna, you don't need the advancement from him. Okay. Yeah, get your laptop up here and we'll get you.
Thing on the ground so that the cooling fans talk ground so that I don't
Oh, and I thought the logbook was because you were going to talk about how many flights and really prove to us that.
Okay, so sharing my screen. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. Hadn't been here in a while. And hello to everybody online. And Peter, you do more evangelizing, evangelizing than this entire group combined. It's pretty impressive because you're like probably you're very important in people not letting go of their EVs. They have an EV, they have a bad experience, and you're like the savior guy that comes along and keeps them in there. So thank you very much. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to try to share my screen. And what do I do now? Screen, share. Is it sharing? Okay. Now, y'all don't cheat and look ahead. I liked what Colin said. I think Colin said, yeah, Kevin's not ready like a teenager. Boy, isn't that the truth? Welcome to Deirdre, my wife's world. Okay. So electric aviation, where are we? Just a little introduction for those of you that don't know. I'm a airplane aficionado since I was as tall as I could be, and I'm a very fortunate person that I got to do what I always wanted to do in life, which is be an airline pilot. I'm an airline pilot. I'm a 777 captain for United Airlines, and I'm on my last 3 years. But I'm also an electric vehicle aficionado, and you know how you read about people that were around at the right place at the right time in history? Well, we're at the right place at the right time in history because electric vehicles and aircraft are merging together. And I'll show you how. So, who knows what that is? Yeah, this crowd. That's right. Fly throughout the universe in an instant. Think physics, at least what we know about physics. Okay, so the challenge of flight since the beginning was power density and energy density. So energy density in the beginning wasn't that big a deal because gasoline go boom pretty easy. It's got a lot of energy. The problem is keeping the energy inside and not letting it go out and melt everything. Ask the Wright brothers. They started off with 12 horsepower when they started it. And by the time that they got to the 300 feet and crashed, well, they did walk away from it, so it was a good landing. That's right. It was a good landing. 300 feet, the engine was developing 3 horsepower because of heat. Friction. They didn't have oil. They were cooling it by spraying gasoline on a tin sheet next to the cylinder. All right. So motors have plenty of power. This company, I like this company, Wright Electric. The Wright brothers had something to do with it. They weren't the first ones, but they were the first ones to actually figure out control in 3 dimensions. And they had a wonderful mechanic, Charles Taylor, that built them an engine that was light enough to carry the airplane aloft. And this company has got the largest electric machine right now. It says 2 megawatts on this slide, but they're up to 2.5 megawatts, 2,500,000 watts. So I like the name right, 2,500,000 watts. What does 2,500,000 watts get you? Well, if you put 2,500,000 watt gas turbine engines driving a couple of propellers behind a gearbox, you get to carry 30 people pretty fast, 300 miles an hour. This is the Embraer EMB 120. I have about 4,000 hours in that airplane. Anyways, brings me back. All right, speed. How fast can we go? Speed is a function of engine, motor, power. You notice how I say engine and motor because, as most of you, if not all of you know, engines are internal combustion machines and motors are electric machines. Although, look at these people. I was at Oshkosh at the electric aircraft innovation symposium, and they're calling them electric engines. Why? Because I think all the marketing folks are thinking that it's going to be easier to sell people on an electric airplane if they call it an engine. So anyways, so speed gives you how much power you got and aerodynamics. How about that thing? Does that thing look like it goes slow? Spirit of innovation. Do you guys know about this airplane? Yep. It is, well, let's just say how fast it is. Let's see. It's electric. Pretty cool. It's a consortium. You know, the British, they know how to go fast, and they love making machines go fast. So the Brits get together, Rolls-Royce, Yasa Motors, they built their own battery, and they made that thing, and it's fast. It's real fast. How fast, you ask? It's faster than the wind blows. Hurricanes and tornadoes blow about 230 miles an hour. This thing, 345 miles per hour. As the Europeans say, it goes 555.9 kilometers per hour because that's a bigger number. It makes it sound faster. 555, 345 miles per hour. World record holder for electric powered aircraft, right there. It's hanging in the London Science Museum. And it should be flying because they're about to have an air race here. The Pulitzer Trophy is about to be run in October, and they should be flying that thing. It would win. All right, so payload. So we got speed, we got payload. How many people, cargo, and fuel you can carry in an airplane? How many people know what that is? Spruce Goose. I like this crowd. Spruce Goose, designed to carry a lot of people and a lot of weight. The Hughes H4 Hercules, Spruce Goose. 400,000 pounds maximum takeoff weight. See, we do it too. The Europeans say 181,000 kilograms. We say 400,000 pounds. Sounds bigger, but I digress. So we have enough power and we have enough size. And my little thing was put enough engines, motors on a big enough airframe, and you can carry anything. So we got power. We can put a bunch of power on it. We can make big stuff. The challenge of electric flight is energy density. Usable energy density. Jet A, kerosene, that's what they put in that 737, 777, mine. Put a lot of, 55,000 gallons of Jet A in the 777. It contains 5,500 watt hours per pound. Lithium class batteries used in aviation, 100 watt hours per pound. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You mean to this crowd, you guys are like quiet because like this isn't the end of the slideshow, guys. I'm just, kind of doing the theatrical thing. So yeah. You mean to tell me that batteries only have 0.018 or 1.8% of the energy that aviation gas has? Yeah. But there is hope. Actually, it's not Let me move this thing because I can't see what my last part of my punchline is. It's not that bad. Always hope there is. Because man is innovative. And we come up, when there's a will, there's a way. All right. We're not ready to carry hundreds of people across the Atlantic or Pacific Oceans at Mach 0.9, 90% the speed of sound. But we are ready to meet the needs of several missions electrically. And one way you know that we're ready as a human race is you follow the money. Over 100 companies, including major aircraft manufacturing companies and a lot of others, and some really exciting startups, are spending billions in invested capital towards electric flight. These are a few of them. Beta Technologies. They are building both a conventional takeoff and landing aircraft and a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. I don't remember what my next slide is, but I might have said, I think these guys are leading it. They're probably the furthest ahead. Why do you think a company that decides to build something where everybody's using gasoline and now everybody's going to use electric would be furthest ahead? This is the crowd that should know the answer to that. No. Now, what company jumped ahead of everybody? Tesla. And why did people not want to buy electric cars? No. Well, that's one of it, but what's range? So what do you do when people are scared of range? Like you drive everywhere and you get to a gas station, it's on every corner. And that's what people are used to. So if you want them to drive an electric car, what do you need to put on every corner? Charging station. So Tesla figured out if we're going to build disruptive transportation that requires a different fuel, we got the fuel in the wall, we just need to hook it up to the car. And they built the charging network, and that was why they jumped ahead of everybody. And look at Beta. That's today, and they're keep building them. They are building an electric aircraft charging network. And that's why they are selling, they're building them. They just flew to JFK. They were the first airplane to fly, electric aircraft to fly into JFK. FedEx is going to buy them. UPS is going to buy them. There's a whole bunch of other people that are putting investment capital into jumping, not taking people and cargo from the short distances, and we'll talk about distances here in a minute. Oh, I already covered that. They get it. Archer, cheap plug for United. This is the company that United's got invested in because, you know, there's a segment of people that are willing to fly from Manhattan to Newark, and they pay $250 to get on a helicopter just to go from Manhattan to Newark. And there's people that do it in LA and Dubai and Hong Kong and all over the place. This thing being electric and can take off vertically, for one thing, I was at the Reno Air Show one time, and I heard the best description of a helicopter I've ever heard. My good buddy, roommate's dad, who was a very senior American Airlines captain, we're sitting at the Reno air races to watch airplanes fly, but they also had a helicopter that was doing an aerobatic routine. And if you know anything about helicopters, they're not really built to do aerobatic routines. And the wind was kind of blowing towards us, and the helicopter is kind of up here, and the old guy says, "Get that thing away from on top of my head." And then he looks over at the few of us that were listening to every word he had to say. And he says, you know what a helicopter is? We're like, what? 1 million parts all trying to get away from each other. So this thing just has propellers. It doesn't have a rotor head and mast and a Jesus nut. That's the thing that holds it all together. And anyways, Archer, they're doing good. They've got a bunch of contracts. That's the vertical space, short distance, maybe within 100 miles, which you can cover a lot. This company, Whisk, their biggest investor is Boeing. The Google guys started this one, but Boeing is invested in this one. These guys are going after full autonomy. Forget the pilot. We're just going to do what the tram does. The hard thing about autonomy, as all of you know, Tesla has this thing, autonomy, and it says on there, hey, if you want to kill yourself, go ahead, arm this thing. But regulatorily in aviation, that's a big hurdle. So changing from engines to motors and battery and fuel to batteries, there is no there was no regulation for it. It had to be developed. So it's taken a long time. So these guys are going after it. They have a lot of capital, and I think that things are happening fast. I mean, look at this thing. It hasn't been that long that we've had that. All right. Ampere. I like these guys. I like the CEO. He's a cool guy. They are taking existing airframes and hybridizing them. So they mix internal combustion engine and electric motor and get 30% improvement on efficiency. There's other projects out there where they're taking, which is how we're going to carry hundreds of people across the Atlantic with less fuel burn. For sure, the domestic narrow bodies is we're going to have a gas turbine engine, and there's going to be a series hybrid and a parallel hybrid. The series hybrid is going to be a gas turbine engine that generates electricity into a battery pack, and that battery pack provides the electricity for the motor drive. And the parallel hybrid is going to be, you got an electric motor in the gas turbine, and they work together. And it's happening. Pratt & Whitney's doing it. Rolls is doing it. GE's doing it. It's pretty incredible. So the Ampere, there's a place for Ampere. Gives you a little bit more range. You can carry fuel. And then these guys, I like these guys. This is the first project of getting an actual airline to fly all electric. Have you guys ever seen this? Harbor Air? They're up in Vancouver. If you ever go up to Vancouver, Seattle, you see these float planes flying around. If you look at the tail, it says Harbor Air on them. They're big. They're Canadian, Vancouver in particular. They're taking their Beaver. So that airplane right there, it has a big radial engine. Okay. Now, radial engines, they're kind of like helicopters. They're not 1 million parts, but they're 500,000 parts all trying to get away from each other. Now, the way you keep them from doing that is you put a lot of steel into it. And so you just hold it together. And so consequently, radial engines are heavy and they require a ton of maintenance. This thing, they took the radial off. They have to stick the very light electric motor way out there on that front boom. They put batteries on it. They're doing what's called a supplemental type certificate. So they're taking an existing airframe and they're putting a new power plant on it. And there is a place in the regulations to do that. You can change an engine on an aircraft by doing a new certification. You don't have to certify the entire airframe. You just certify the new engine on the airframe. However, of course, it's electric. And so the regulators are like, yeah, we've never done this before. And so they've been at it since 2018, but before that, probably 15. The guy that owns the company, founded the company, is super cool. I hope he lives to see it. It's happening. They're getting there. I think we might see them get a supplemental type certificate next year and be carrying people. Their cost savings is going to be 50% at least, and they will be able to do 90% of their routes because they're just flying from Vancouver to this little island and Vancouver to that little island and up this little sound and down that little sound. Deirdre and I rode on a Twin Otter that's theirs, but it has turboprop engines. But float planes are cool. If you ever get a chance to fly in a float plane, that's kind of neat. All right. I have a little aircraft called the Pipistrel Taurus Electro. It's a glider. Pipistrel happens to be their little Slovenian company. They got bought by Textron, which is this massive aviation company in the world, US company. They own Beechcraft, they own Cessna, they own Piper. Yeah, they own everything. Everything in airplane, everything associated with airplanes in the United States is Textron. But the smart thing about them is that Textron and a lot of these companies, these conglomerates, they're keeping the brand. They're not going in and trying to reinvent the wheel, because a lot of the success of what has been going on is the people that have that brand. So they've kept Pipistrel, and they have this little trainer. This is the first aircraft to be certificated in the United States as a light sport aircraft. They just changed the rules. The FAA just changed the rules, and just now they introduced this thing called Mosaic. They've been working on it for 8 years. When they wrote the rule for light sport, and that's just a light aircraft, which is most of the trainers are, they said a light sport aircraft must be powered by a single reciprocating engine. This is 8 years ago. And everybody told them, but wait, electrics are coming and others. Well, thank you very much for your viewpoint, but it still said it. It took them 8 years to rewrite it. They actually weren't going to rewrite it, but then people like, those people like Archer and Joby and Whisk, they got people with a lot of money behind them, like the Uber guys and the Google guys and the Meta guys and the Amazon guys. And they all went to the FAA's boss, Congress. You can move anything with enough money. And so anyways, they made the FAA go look and rewrite the rule. And they have. That's the first one. This airplane goes about 45 minutes plus reserves. 30 minutes reserves is the rule. If you fly it, kind of like a gas airplane. And I'll get into that in a minute. Aw. This airplane, Bristol H-55 Energique. This airplane is the first airplane that is going to get normal category certification in Europe, and it'll be the first airplane that is going to get normal category certification in the United States of America. And Kevin is going to buy one. I can't tell you, is Deirdre watching this? No. But even if she was, she knows the story. I can't tell you how hard the CEO of the Douglas Corporation had to work on the chief financial officer and chief operations officer of the Douglas Corporation to make this deal. But I can talk a little bit about it. I'm going to buy one of these things. I'm buying it with a guy that owns a flight school up in Chicago. He's got a well-established flight school. He knows how to operate a flight school. I don't want to learn how to operate a flight school. I know how to, I've got some good ideas on how to bring an electric airplane into a flight school. And so that's where I come in, and we'll let you know if it works out. That's my retirement gig. I only got 3 years, and if I get to combine my love for airplanes and my love for electric stuff in my retirement job, plus Deirdre is used to me being gone 3 to 4 nights a week. If I come home 7 nights a week, something will happen. Okay. And this one, the Bi-Aerospace E-Flyer 2 was going to be the first normal category certificated aircraft in the United States of America. They're out of Denver, Colorado area up at Jefferson. It's Centennial. That's what the airport's called. Yeah.
So does this mean that you're going to be living 3 nights a week, sleeping in the airplane?
I hope so. We're looking for a house. I'd love to find something on an airport, but that's another story. Okay, so this airplane, this company, very innovative. They decided to go to the normal category, and I don't have enough time to explain to you guys. Light category, think of a Cessna 152, something that weighs 1,300 pounds. Normal category, think of everything else. Now they've combined it. It's called Mosaic. It's pretty cool. But light airplanes, the little heavier ones, more complex ones, bigger engine, flaps, gear, they go under normal category. And the reason that's important is because there weren't weight limitations. And so you could put a little bit heavier battery in an aircraft and get more range. And that's the whole deal. Unfortunately, they kind of lost their way. The CEO said, oh, yeah, we're going to build a 4-seater too. This is a 2-seater. And then he said, and everybody that knew anything about physics knew that he was going in the wrong direction. He said, and we're going to build a King Air replacement. So the King Air is something that carries 8 to 10 people 1,500 miles at 300 miles an hour. And so when he said that they were going to build an electric one like that, pretty much everybody that had money and knew something said, nah. Well, they kind of took a hiatus. They reorganized. They got a new CEO. The guy's super sharp. I'm going to go visit with him later this month. And I was at Oshkosh. Do you guys know what Oshkosh is? The Air Venture is the largest air show in the world. And it's put on by the Experimental Aircraft Association, which is a bunch of guys that came out of the war and they started tinkering and building their own stuff, kind of like dragsters. Well, there's guys that built airplanes, designed airplanes. It's phenomenal. 20,000 airplanes there. 700,000 people come to that show during the week. It's yeah. Although you can camp, and I never know what I'm doing until the week before. I drive in my car, park, I camp, and I walk around. What's important is don't be upset if you drool on your shirt. Carry a little bib with you. You know, maybe a bib would be a good thing to carry. Anyways, I helped these guys. This is a prototype, and I helped these guys put this together. So I kind of got some in on them because I'm still working on my gig, my retirement gig. All right, back to the energy density thing. All right, I want to talk about one electric mission, and that's a pilot training mission. Big deal? Well, there's a pilot shortage. Like I told you, I only got 2 years. They're going to have to replace me, and they're going to have to replace thousands of me's because I'm the land of the baby boomers, and we're growing aviation. Now everybody flies on an airplane, which is so cool. The world is smaller in time, not smaller in geography, but smaller in time because of jet airplanes, and everybody is riding on them. So they need a lot of pilots. So let me see if I can get this to shrink. And I can move this. See, you guys can't see it, but the little Zoom thing is in my way. All right, mass retirements. So I just wanted to tell you, this market, 9.37 billion in 24, expected to grow to 24 billion by 32. North America, a couple of billion. Light aircraft used. 340,000 airplanes are used to train pilots globally. 340,000. It's pretty good. And you know, these airplanes are $500,000. So that's real good. All right, what do you need to get your pilot license? Well, you got to get a few of them. you got to get your private pilot. That allows you to fly around by yourself. You can carry people. You can do it at day, at night. Then if you want to fly in the clouds, you got to get an instrument rating. And then if you want to get paid to fly airplanes, you got to get a commercial pilot certificate, they're called, license. And then one of the ways that you get paid is teaching people to fly. And that's a certificated flight instructor. And then you can teach people how to fly in the clouds. And by the way, that's all single engine stuff. There's multi-engine rating, and there's multi-engine instructor rating. And then when you get to big aircraft, you get to fly, you need to have an airline transport pilot certificate. And then you turn 65 and the FAA says you no longer get to exercise the privileges of that airline transport pilot certificate because your medical is now going from a class 1 to a class 2 just because you turned 65. I got a buddy that just retired from Southwest Airlines. He flies everything: helicopters, gliders, balloons, hot air balloons, amphibians. He's a great pilot, just enjoys aviation. He is divorced, doesn't have any kids. So he's got airplanes. And he was flying this Grumman Goose, this beautiful, what do you call these things? Amphibious airplane, the old timey, with the big radial engines and like they did in the 30s. And he was flying that and he was posting some stuff on it. And one of the guys in the group says, "Riz, is there anything you don't know how to fly?" And he said, "According to the FAA, I no longer know how to fly the 737. He was flying the 737 for Southwest. Anyways, so yeah. How am I doing on time? Oh, am I doing okay? Yeah, okay. Okay, this is where we get to the good part. By the rules, none of the requirements. Can I move that? I can. Let's see. Let me see if I can move this. Is that, no, it is me. Hold on. Can I what?
Now you got it.
Okay, good. It says, by the rules, none of the requirements in the syllabus of all those certificates and ratings require more than 1 hour of flight. So you don't have to fly more than 1 hour to get all that accomplished. And, huh? No. No, there is. There is. Absolutely. You have to fly, to get your private pilot license, a minimum of 40 hours total. But that's total time. I'm talking about in each segment. In each segment, you don't have to fly more than an hour. Interesting. So why do we need 6 hours of endurance when we only need 1 hour of endurance? You take a 2-seat trainer today, it carries about 30 gallons of gas. You have gas, as they call it. And gas weighs 6 pounds per gallon. So the fuel weighs about 180 pounds. The airplane burns about 5 gallons an hour, giving it an endurance of 6 hours. Okay, these are really little airplanes. This is like you're here and the other person is right here and the window is right here. You think you want to sit in that thing for 6 hours? I'll tell you, the only reason you want to sit in that thing for 6 hours is because you're going to be an airline pilot someday. And if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. But you don't, I mean, some people are crazy about airplanes, so they do. They just fly long distances and break records, but you don't have to get your license. Remember that guy? Even at 1.8% the energy density of aviation fuel, batteries today can provide enough stored energy to allow a two-seat airplane to fly 1 hour. More, actually. Electric airplanes already fly 1 hour. That one does? Well, it's not certificated yet. But that one's going to go 2 hours at normal cruise. It's going to have about a 80 kilowatt hour battery, I think. It's going to be able to go 2 hours normal cruise plus reserves. That one, 45 minutes plus a half an hour of reserves. This one, it's going to go 1 hour plus reserves. But all the manuals are being written the way all airplane manuals are. So they're being written at, well, don't get ahead of myself. This is how electric airplanes are going to do it. This is how they do it. It's a long cross country is the biggest challenge. You got to go 300 miles. You got to stop at least 3 airports. One of the airports has to be at least 250 miles away from the first airport. But the key is the airports only have to be 50 miles away from each other. To log cross-country time, you only have to go 50 nautical miles. If you take one of these airplanes and you cruise it at, and I'll get into best cruising endurance power settings, the airplane will go about 70 nautical miles per hour. So don't fly an electric airplane the way you fly a gas airplane. Remember the Leaf? We didn't drive the Leaf the way we drove the gas car, because the Leaf, even though they told you it went 80 miles, when you added a little bit of age and you added a little bit of cold and you added a little bit of hills, it didn't go 80 miles an hour. It went 70 miles an hour. In the cold winter, it went 50 miles an hour. Yeah, 50 miles of range. Oh, no, it would go 80. What did I get it to? 80, 87, I think they had it topped off at. But you couldn't go very long at 87 miles an hour. I did get Deirdre and I got 235 miles in one day out of our Leaf. Go to the doctor, come back, charge. Go another thing, come back, charge. Charge, charge, charge. Go eat dinner, charge while we're eating dinner. Looked for a restaurant that had a charger. Drove out to see John Metric race his electric dragster. Well, that's Baytown. That's way on the other side of Baytown. That was like 40 miles. So we drove to an EVgo station, fast charged it, went over to the drag station, found a plug, charged while we were there. I even did one little run in the Leaf, 17 seconds in the quarter. John's doing like, at that time, I think he was doing 9 seconds in the quarter. And then drove back to the EVgo charging station. And then drove back home, got there at, I don't know, 1 in the morning. My wife is a wonderful person. The stuff that she has allowed me to do with her. I mean, we're in this EVgo station on the east side of town off of I-10, and we're like, well, I'm thinking, this might be it. Okay, so you don't fly the electric airplane the way you fly the gas airplane. Gas airplanes, one thing about an internal combustion machine is that it takes fuel and it oxidizes it, burns it with the oxygen in the air. And it does it at a certain mixture. What is that called? The isometric? What was it called? You guys. Isometric. Stoichiometric. Thank you. Stoichiometric. You got to have this many units of fuel molecules and this many units of oxygen, because if you get too much or too little, it doesn't work. So anyways, the higher you go, the less dense the air is. And since there's less air molecules, you get to mix them with less fuel. And also, another little advantage of going high is that because the air molecules are farther apart, the airplane gets to go faster to go over the same amount of air molecules. So electric motors, they don't use air and they don't care how high you go. So gas airplanes are flown high in cruise. So you can get your fuel burns down. So how do we get them to do a long cross country? Low and slow. You already went 3 slides ahead. That's right. Low and slow. The Bristol, that airplane that I'm going to get, it's got a 48 kilowatt hour usable battery. And if you set climb power, the thing has a 90 kilowatt motor. And it will do 90, I think you can set like 95 kilowatts or 105 kilowatts for takeoff. And then max continuous is 90. If you do the math and you fly 90 kilowatts, your airplane will go 120 knots, but it'll only go there for about 30 minutes. It'll run out of juice. So if you actually climb up, and I've got another slide here, but the secret is I don't have to climb way high. You really have to get up into the 20s to get thinner air. So you really have to go long distance, 1,000-mile long distances in fast airplanes. For little training flights, you just climb up till you get above the terrain. So the rules are 2,000 feet above the terrain. Get 2,000 feet up and then power back to, it depends. Are you questioning the 2,000? Somebody said, 1,000 AGL is true, but in if you got right, and within 2,000, you're right, and within 2,000 feet of urban areas, so you don't have to go that high. You climb up to whatever the minimum altitude you need to stay clear of the terrain, and then you throttle back to your best speeds, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So you can get a best speed at about 20 kilowatts of power. So now, if you take, let's say you used 10 kilowatts, 38, and now you're using 20 kilowatts, and you still have 38 in the tank, you can go a lot farther. You can go a lot longer. So don't go fast. You're building time anyways. Like he said, you have to have so much total time. To be an airline transport pilot, you have to have 1,500 hours. So you got to get your private pilot license, and then you got to have 150 hours to get your instrument rating, and then you got to have 250 hours to get your commercial, and then you got to build the rest of that time. So okay, you can build it at 120 miles an hour. You can build it at 70 miles an hour. It doesn't matter, because your logbook doesn't say how many miles did you fly. It says how many hours did you fly. So this is what happens with airplanes. It happens with your car too. There's this thing called induced drag and parasite drag. Induced drag is the drag that's created by taking this mass and sustaining it with lift. Lift works like this. You got this thing that's at an angle, and the air comes and it goes down. and the air weighs. We know it weighs because we can feel it. And we move, we displace that air down, and that equal and opposite force is us lifting the airplane. That's induced drag. Parasite drag is the faster you go, the more air resistance you feel. Anybody here ride a bicycle? You get to a certain point where your legs just cannot overcome parasite drag because the curve for parasite drag, it's not linear, it's exponential. I used to know this 2 times the square. Somebody help me. Something like that. So why do you want to go where you got to use a lot of power to overcome drag when you're trying to build time anyways? Why not fly the airplane down here in the, let's see. Why not fly the airplane? Can y'all see my arrow? Why not fly it there where it requires the least amount of power? That's the stuff that my little company is called Engine to Motor. And that's what Engine to Motor is going to do. Just like he helps people stay in their EVs, he's saving lives. I'm trying to get people into EVs again. And you got to think different. So stay slow, stay low, go slow. And that's how you do it. And that's how you do all the licenses. And then I wanted to show this video. Oh, well, you're welcome. But here, let me see if I can escape, go here. And let's see if, okay, now I gotta turn my sound up. And oh, will it work? Sound?
Yeah, just hold on.
Okay, here we go. Let's make it big. Let's fire this baby up. Okay, hold on. Let's see.
And it does. A great aeroplane to go and break records with, but also to improve the future and the next steps for electric aviation.
Key thing of all right, this project's an attempt to break the world electric speed record.
Put 550 horsepower in a little airplane like this, it's going to go like that. It's a great aeroplane to go and break records with, but also to improve the future and the next steps for electric aviation.
Key thing about breaking the record is about demonstrating how fast this technology is going, and therefore how soon it's going to be in our lives. This technology offers us the opportunity to start traveling in a really net zero way.
Look at the teams and the interaction across the whole world, the engineers, project management, the ATR, government. I've never seen a team come together and achieve what Prestige has done.
We've broken a record that already existed, but crucially, we've broken it by a phenomenal amount. I think it's clearly demonstrating that we're getting into the third age of aviation.
Electric aviation is absolutely and utterly here to stay. Electric aviation. I'm sharing, I think. Electric aviation is here to stay. And then I had my little "you're welcome" slide. But anyways, questions?
as a pilot. I can tell you that flying at 2,000 or 3,000 feet for even a half an hour around here in the summertime is pretty hammering on the turbulence. But that's what you put students through, I guess. Is anybody going to want to fly that outside that mission, outside the training mission, as a personal flying machine
So yeah,
at that altitude?
you know, there's folks that like to fly their Piper Cub for 30, 40 minutes around just to look at stuff. There's going to be people that want to just fly electric airplanes. However, one of the things we are going to do is we have to have transition. If we're going to teach people to fly electric aircraft, we're going to have a transition program for gas airplanes, because they got to learn how to operate an internal combustion engine. They're getting into higher performance airplanes. So as a flight school operator, why not have something else you can charge the students for, like transition training? So we're going to have a simulator. We're actually going to have an internal combustion engine simulator. That airplane has a exact replica in a gas airplane, the B-23 Bristol. And so, you know, the instrumentation, everything's going to be the same. It's just a matter of learning how to operate the Rotax. You just remind me of a couple of things. They took that airplane across the country, H-55 Bristol. H-55 makes the powertrain. So they make the motor, the controller, and the batteries. And they got the airframe manufacturer, Bristol, to partner up with them. And Bristol's out of Czechoslovakia. And they took the airplane across. And H-55, because this is different, they're the ones that are behind the marketing and you know, it's like Tesla when they came to Texas. They tried to get a dealer license, and the dealers told them, well, you just sell them. Joe Bob's got a dealer license. Just let Joe Bob sell them. And you know, Tesla said, well, Joe Bob doesn't know how to sell an electric car. And so H-55 knows, you know, they're going to be at the forefront of selling electric airplanes. So they take it across the country, and they stopped in a couple of interesting places. One was Phoenix, and it was 120 degrees in Phoenix, and all the flight schools were not flying because the density altitude. So one of the things that happens, right, you go up in altitude and the air molecules get farther apart. So the engine does burn less fuel, but it also has less power. And the other way you get molecules to get away from each other is you heat the air up. And that's called density altitude. Well, there's places like Phoenix and Vegas and high enough airports. So it's a combination of how high you are and what the temperature is. So they're in Phoenix. The flight schools couldn't operate. They couldn't operate for two reasons. One was density altitude. The other one was because of heat. Because the internal combustion engines, as good as they are at heating you in the wintertime, they need a lot of cooling in the summertime. And so you can get hot enough. So they're flying this airplane around. The flight schools are going, how are you guys flying that? What engine do you have in there? And they're like, we have a electric engine, because they call it an electric engine. I'm gonna have to get over it. And the other place they flew that was really interesting was Jefferson County Centennial Airport up there in Denver. And that place is 5,400 feet. And the same deal. They were flying, the flight schools weren't in the summertime. And the airplane's already demonstrated that it's going to do better in hot climates. Of course, as we all know, you also have cold climates. We're going to operate this airplane up in Chicago, and that's going to be interesting. What we're going to do is we're going to also sell, and maybe at a pretty good discount so that they actually do it, heated socks, heated pants. We're going to get real nice flight suits that are all heated. And they carry their little battery with them. And so then we'll preheat the airplane in the hangar, and then they can fly around. Because in Chicago, when you get up to, in about February in the middle of the day, it's pretty cold. So we'll see. We're going to see. Hey, do you think the Wright brothers had all the answers to these questions? No. They just put a couple of sticks together with some wire, and they saw if they could do it. Anyways, good question. Anyone, another one?
So do these airplanes take off quick like the cars do?
Yeah, the performance is excellent. You know, that was another thing. They were taking off a lot shorter distance than the than the gas airplanes. The other thing is when you're taxiing around, you have cooling problems with gasoline engines, and you have to maintain certain minimum RPMs and stuff. And you taxi up, and you're sitting there waiting for traffic, and the engine's running. Well, with the electric, you go over there and you stop, and the prop stops. Like the electric motor in an electric car does. No idling. All right.
So
What
is
else?
anything happening with electric ultralights?
Yes, yes. There's a whole section of ultralights at AirVenture in Oshkosh, and there's a fellow that's really been doing a lot of stuff with them. It's cool. It's super cool. If you know about get out in the afternoon and the evening and fly around. I will tell you about an ultralight though, that the thing with ultralights is that there's two things about aviation. You got to know your limits as a pilot, and you got to know your airplane's limits. And because ultralights are ultralight, they have more limitations on when they can fly from the standpoint of wind and turbulence. You just can't fly them with as much crosswind, but they take off and land in shorter distances. But if you have turbulence, they move around a lot more. So, but yes, there's ultralights been going. It's very similar actually. They are they're actually doing liquid cooling for the battery. They use a liquid cooling ribbon. They have cylindrical cells. They're using 2170s. I don't think anybody's using 4680s yet. There's some that are using pouch cells. That was another thing about these companies, is that all of them, as they sell you the airplane, you know, one of the funnest things we have with Tesla and some of the other electric car companies are doing, you get an update. Like your car keeps getting better the longer you've got it. Well, with these, they're going to, as battery technology gets better, you'll pay like a little extra fee in your payments as you're buying the airplane, and they'll, as the batteries time out, you'll get the next generation batteries. So very, very similar. Yeah. Well, Ampere's doing it. Ampere's doing it. Yeah. Oh, as a matter of fact, H55, the company that's making the powertrain for that Energique, they have several exciting projects, and one of them is the largest simulator company in the world is called CAE. CAE builds these $25 million simulators that make you think you're in a 777 when you're actually sitting on the ground, and it's pretty amazing. You can see the beard on the guy down in the on the ground that's wanding you in, and you can feel the tar expansion strips on the taxiway. The airplane actually goes dunk dunk, and you can feel the vibration of the turbines as they spool up, and it's all made up. It's AI. Anyway, CAE, they also train, they have flight schools, and they use Piper arrows, and H55 has a contract with them to replace the engines in their Piper arrows with an electric drive system. So, you know, the Chinese are doing some stuff. Arms race. You know, a lot of this technology, like everything else, is coming from military side. I mean, drones, you know, the war in both of these modern day wars of Ukraine and Israel, are using electric vehicles. They're using electric vehicles for the ground to move stuff around quietly. They're using and have low heat signatures, and they're using these drones. and, you know, they're doing reconnaissance and delivery. The only thing they don't have is a guy up there. Well, why do you want a guy up there when if he gets shot down, you got to go get him? So,
The big difference is it seems to be maintenance. I mean, that is there. My understanding is that there's so much routine maintenance with a gasoline engine in an airplane that this is what makes the huge difference, and this is why they're so quick to adopt it in training.
yes,
Is there a number that you use?
yeah, it's 15%. Your cost is 15% of what it costs you to operate the same airplane with a gas engine.
Oh.
It's an 85% reduction in cost. Like one of these, all right, you go buy a 172 brand new, costs you $660,000. However, that's a 4-seat airplane. It goes a little bit farther. The Bristol gas engine airplane, the B-23, costs you $360. This electric one's going to cost you $460. So it's about $100,000 more. But battery costs, really it is, because the motor's not costing any more. Yeah, it's battery. There's some engineering that they're, you know, trying to pay down, right? I mean, really the price of stuff has a lot more to do with what you think the market is willing to bear than what it costs you to do it. And so if you go to the operator and you say, you know, commercial aircraft operators, they're like any other commercial business, right? They're purchasing this asset, they're doing a depreciation on the asset is being financed. So when you look at the total cost of ownership, as we know from electric cars, right? And you start, you know, every 100 hours, you got to change the oil in a gas engine when you're using it for flight instructed. It uses 6 quarts of oil. Each one of those quarts is $20 because it's airplane oil. And the filter is $50 because it's an airplane. So 7 times 20 is 140 plus 50 is 190. And that's, you haven't touched labor, and your mechanic's making 120 an hour.
I was wondering about air conditioning in the electric. Because, you know, we've got the air conditioning in the electric planes, because I noticed a lot of them just have the window over your head, which would make the cockpit hot. Whereas, you know, some of the planes, they have a little roof over your head, so it wouldn't be quite so hot. So is air conditioning for an option, basically? Yeah, thanks.
So that takes me back to my biggest challenge of electric aircraft, which is energy density. And the short answer to your question is no, they're not going to put air conditioning. Air conditioning in airplanes, for the longest time, there's very few airplanes. You can buy a Cirrus that has air conditioner, and you can buy some high-end Pipers and maybe some others. Those are $1 million airplanes, and they have air conditioning compressor in them, and they have a lot of power, excess power. And but all training airplanes, the air conditioner is the propeller that's moving air past you, and the windows you open, and you just you know, you just sweat it out.
Well, just on a note with the air conditioning, one solution that I'd seen, I'm not a pilot, but was the icy breeze, which is a cooler,
Yeah.
fill it with ice, and they use a water solution through a radiator, and you mostly use it on the ground when it's hot, and then you get up in the air and use the air. So it doesn't have to have a ton of density, and it's super cheap compared to trying to get an avionic grade
Yeah.
compressor and all that.
Yeah, when I fly the glider in this 120 degrees of heat, well, The best air conditioner is when I can get up under the clouds and it's nice and cool under there. And you're like, well, I got to leave because I'm actually trying to fly cross country. But I have one of these fans that goes around my neck, and I grab a towel and ice packs, and I put a bunch of ice packs in there, and I put a towel around my head. So exactly. That's
So we actually use some of these, and it's about like having, you have like 4 vents on your car. It's like having one vent. So whatever you can do with one vent, and it'll last a couple hours. So it's more than nothing. It's something. So my question was on the charger map, what was the distance between, what did they end up with distances between chargers, and how is that working?
I think their conventional airplane range is 200 miles, I think. No wind. I think that's what that airplane, it's got a big battery pack. It's got like I'd have to look at the specs. 150, 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's very efficient airplane. It's all carbon fiber, very light. I don't know what the range will be when you load it full of boxes, but most of that stuff is 100 miles. So when you order something from Amazon or FedEx, you either have this little truck pick it up, and it takes it to a place where a bigger truck picks it up, and then it takes it to an airport. And depending on where it's going, if it's going somewhere locally, it might go on a little airplane locally to another place that has trucks, or it gets on a big airplane and it goes to a central hub and they take it all off. If Google FedEx or UPS central hubs, and you'll see it's phenomenal the way they move stuff. But anyways, yeah, I like I said, I think they're about 200 miles. They basically are building out their charging infrastructure based on the deal with them is they're approaching all these operators that are going to use these airplanes, and so they come in with a package deal. They don't come in and say, buy this electric airplane, and then have that person say, well, how am I going to fuel it? They come in and they go, this is how you're going to fuel it. This is how you're going to operate this. And by the way, it's going to cost you 15% of operating the gas airplane. And then the guy goes, what?
It's yeah, we are. Yeah. So the one other issue that airplanes last a lot longer. They use them a lot longer, right? I mean, it's not a 10-year automobile life. I've seen some people using 40, 50-year-old aircrafts.
Yep. Yep. But I'll tell you, one of the big challenges in general aviation is low lead gasoline. It is right. So it's the only, they're still using lead in aviation fuel. The reason they're using lead in aviation fuel is because it's a great coolant and lubricant. The problem is we can't have lead in fuel anymore. So they are developing unleaded fuels. It's taken them a long time. They finally have made some headways in that, but there's some issues with the infrastructure where you transport leaded fuel before, and now you're going to transport unleaded fuel. So you're right. But flight schools, I will tell you, they put they're probably the highest use model for aircraft. So flight schools don't hold on to airplane for 30 years because you have a lot of takeoffs and landings, and they're not all the best landings. And and so the airplane gets no, just, and the gears, you take more. So anyways, so yeah, the longevity of the airplane is not as important in the flight school thing.
But you have to rebuild the engines after a certain number of hours, right? You don't do that with a car.
That's true. The engines have time before overhauls. The electric motors will too, but when you overhaul the electric motor, you're going to change 2 bearings. All right.
Very, very enlightening. And Peter, also very enlightening. Thank you. Okay. So, second Thursday of October. See everybody then. Bye-bye.
Well, can I just remind people you have Brews and Batteries this Sunday?
Yep.
And then there's an event in Austin on the 12th of October. No, it's the weekend in October. Look up Austin EVA. They're having their road rally again this fall.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and don't forget Wings and Wheels
Yep.
and Sunday.
Yep. All righty. Thanks.
Well, it's
Bye-bye.
news you have to report, repeat everything.